So why did men stop wearing the bowl cut? When you hear the word bowl cut, what do you think about? Do you think about little boys on the back porch in Alabama with their mom cutting their hair on a hot summer day? Perhaps you think of the Pennsylvania Dutch, the Amish, wearing their very distinctive haircut that they have worn for centuries. So first off, what is a bowl cut? According to AI, a bowl cut is a simple haircut where the front is cut fairly long and it continues along the sides, may or may not go over the ear, and is roughly the same length in the back. Almost every hair from the top of the crown to the bang, to the sides, and to the back is more or less the same length. That is a traditional bowl cut. Of course, there are variations on that, and we can talk about some of those. Certain hair textures work better with the bowl cut, particularly straight hair textures. And so you will see a lot of different cultures, in particular Asian cultures, will often be sporting a bowl cut, whether on a girl or a boy. When did the bowl cut start? You can go way back to the 15th and 16th century and see paintings of knights and of shepherds wearing a bowl cut. We have historic documentation of many people wearing the bowl cut. You go back even further and you have sculptures of young men and boys rocking the bowl cut as early as 300 AD. So it's very popular in antiquity and in the Middle Ages. But when did the bowl cut become popular after that? It's actually been a very popular haircut for boys. You will see examples of boys in the Victorian age, in the 1920s, up until today. You see little boys, a lot of maybe from the age of 2 to about 6 or 7 years old, sporting a bowl cut. And that doesn't matter whether it was in the 70s, when you had someone like Mikey from Life Cereal wearing a version of the bowl cut, to my own son, Victor, who I used to cut his hair. I actually called it the toaster. Sometimes I would call it the laser because of its incredibly straight precision cutting and that ultra gleamy hair that he had as a young kid. So it's always been popular with kids. It's popular because a lot of people can do it. And that's one of the definitions that comes up is it's a very simple haircut that a lot of people can do without having particular tools, say clippers, or having really strong barbering skills. A lot of people can actually draw that straight line around the head and cut it accordingly. And if you don't even want to cut the back, you can actually just start making it slightly longer as you go back, and it can just turn into that really cap kind of bowl cut. There are very few examples of men in the age of photography from the 1850s onward, men wearing bowl cuts. There just aren't many examples of it. It would take an invasion to actually propel the bowl cut into public consciousness, and that invasion would come in the form of the British invasion. It was actually on the Ed Sullivan Show in February 1964, where the Beatles would show up with their mop tops, with their mod haircuts, with their bowl cuts, and it would take America by storm. Some people credit actually the Beatles and their haircuts for really defining a style that would be taken up by university men, by high school boys in the 60s. And that style would be all over the country. You would see versions of it on the East Coast in prep schools. You would see versions of it on the West Coast. You would actually see people wearing the bowl cut, especially surfers on the West Coast. It was seen as a great haircut that was very easy. And all of these haircuts, like the Beatles and their music, these were seen as haircuts of rebellion that men could adopt, where they would push the boundaries just a little bit before going full throttle long hair. This was actually the baby step into getting guys wearing long hair. You would see actually then a lot of bands picking up the style. Not only the Beatles, you would see the Stones, you would see the Animals, you would see lots of people in music and in pop culture wearing the bowl cut. And that style would go on for just a little bit, and then as men got a taste of long hair, they would actually start letting their hair grow, and that morphed into more of the long hair that we associate with the late 60s, early 70s. But the hairstyle would actually continue on for guys who were, I guess, a little less gutsy, and you would see that on the likes of Richard Carpenter and on John Denver. These guys wearing that bowl cut into the early 70s. But this is the last time that you would see this haircut. The haircut did not make it out of the 70s. I myself actually rocked that more of a Richard Carpenter kind of look. You can actually see pictures here of me wearing, it was really just a grown-up barbershop haircut. My dad and mom used to draw a line on my forehead and I would rub it off before I went to the barber because they wanted my bangs shorter, and I would not do that. I would make sure I didn't scrunch up my forehead. I wanted my bangs as long as possible because I wanted a version of that bowl cut myself. Did not last beyond the 70s, and then like a lot of guys started wearing barbershop haircuts or growing a mullet that we've talked about before, and it really did not make another appearance. Some people say Justin Bieber had a version of a bowl cut. I really just think it's a long fringy kind of barbershop haircut grown out, kind of like what I had in 7th grade. Not really a bowl cut. And so on adults, it really kind of faded. And what really killed it, I think, would be Jim Carrey wearing a version of the bowl cut in the movie Dumb and Dumber. The bowl cut became basically a running joke of the ignorant, of the stupid, of whatever you want to call it. It was no longer seen as anywhere remotely fashionable, but was only seen as a joke. We can thank Jim Carrey for that, but I think that in particular is the death of the bowl cut. Kids are still wearing it beyond the aughts. You see a lot of kids still sporting a bowl cut when they're little, but a lot of times it grows out and you get other versions of adult haircuts. Previously, we talked about the mullet had a similar implication that people used to think about the mullet representing, say the redneck culture, and then that powered through that. Will the bowl cut do a similar thing? I'm not sure. Yes, there are still cultures that wear the bowl cut heavily. That's a lot to do with hair texture, but for the most part, the bowl cut is dead, and I don't know if it's going to be revived. What do you think, guys? Do you think the bowl cut has any chance of coming back? Or can we put an RIP on the bowl cut's tombstone? Rest in peace, bowl cut.
Good day, mate.